All right, thank you everybody for continuing to watch the program here. This is part two of my preseason rankings here for the NFL season, the 2024 season. As you can see, I got up on the screen there. Hopefully, you guys watched the first part of this, my 32 through 11 rankings. I'll give you a little bit of a teaser there at the end of that video, saying the Chicago Bears were going to be that number 10 team. Now you can see the full list of those top 10 teams for the NFL season here. All right, to finish off my preseason rankings for the NFL season, as mentioned before, the Chicago Bears are in at that 10 spot for me. This team's going to be, of course, a ton about Caleb Williams and seeing how he can do throughout the season, but I do think that team is stacked. All right, so offensively and defensively, I think they're an awesome team. I think were they the number one ranked defensive team for the last 8 games, I believe it was, of the season of the 2023 season. So their defense is going to be good. Offense, they got a whole lot better. They obviously drafted Rome Odunze on there, and then they got the big receiver from the Chargers, along with DJ Moore that they already had on there, bringing over Swift on their running game as well. They got Cole Kmet, a very good tight end on their team there, and a pretty good offensive line. So I think it's really going to be about that offensive line, and of course about Caleb Williams. He's a rookie quarterback, so he's going to have his ups and downs. Everyone's been saying he's the closest comparison, I guess, to Patrick Mahomes. I see Patrick Mahomes. His favorite player growing up was Aaron Rodgers. I don't think enough people actually compare Mahomes to Rodgers as they should. Maybe he's the third coming of Aaron Rodgers as well. But he does do a little bit more off-platform kind of throws than Rodgers does, which I do see Mahomes do. So I would say those comparisons are fair there as well. Anyway, Chicago Bears starting out at number 10 there. We'll see how their season goes for them. At number 9, the New York Jets. Aaron Rodgers, speaking of Aaron Rodgers, is he going to stay healthy? How good is he when he is healthy? Obviously, he's 41 years old now, so there's a whole lot of questions surrounding him. Obviously, last year had 4 snaps and then done. That defense, I think that defense is solid. It might not be as great of a defense as everyone has been saying. I don't think it's like a top 3 defense or something like that. But Aaron Rodgers had 4 or 5 top 10 defenses. No, I take that back. He's had 2 top 10 defenses in his career. I just remember that. 2 top 10 defenses in his career. So if the New York Jets defense can be a top 10 defense, then that's speaking a whole lot, right? And also, I don't think enough people talk about this, but Aaron Rodgers, that last year in Green Bay, if you remember, he broke his thumb on his throwing hand. What was it? Week 3 or something like that of the season that year. Okay. And throughout the season, he pretty much struggled. You could see balls he was throwing that were not right throughout that year. And then towards the end of the season, he started to get healthy again. And then with a few weeks left in the season, I think maybe 4 or 5 weeks left in the season, he then broke his ribs and had to come out of that game. Jordan Love had to come into the game, actually. I think it was like a Sunday night game or something like that even. And so Aaron Rodgers was pretty banged up that whole season. Now, you can speak to the injuries. You could say hopefully Aaron Rodgers doesn't get hurt or doesn't get hurt. And, is he having those kind of problems? Sure. But the fact of the matter is that a lot of people like to bring up his stats from that season and say he was already going downhill. The year before that season, he was the MVP. The year before that season, he was the MVP as well. So he had back-to-back MVP seasons, 1 year with a broken thumb and broken ribs that he played through, right? So I wouldn't really count that as what Aaron Rodgers can do when healthy at an older age, right? So if he's healthy, Garrett Wilson over there, if that team can stay healthy and put it all together, offensive line is going to be a big question for them. I think maybe their biggest question, but I think they're going to be a solid team. Baltimore Ravens, I know a lot of people are really high in the Baltimore Ravens. They're a team that just kind of has a show for me. Every year they do show it during the regular season. Harbaugh, I do think, is a very good coach. I think he's actually better than his brother. So a well-coached team, a well-run organization. Lamar Jackson, can he stay healthy? Can he also put up the numbers like he did? I mean, when he was a MVP, they still couldn't get over the hump, right? Eventually, some of those things kind of take a toll on your team. Derrick Henry joins his team, so that's huge. I wish it was like 4 or 5 years ago, maybe 3 years ago, but still, that's going to be a nice bonus there for them on the running game for a team that was already the number one running team in the NFL. But they did lose Patrick Queen on defense. That's huge. So I think their defense maybe takes a step back. I think their offense is going to be pretty much where it was from before, maybe a tad bit better than it was last season. And we'll see where they end up at the end of the year there. The Atlanta Falcons, I think, if to me, probably them and the Eagles, maybe one of the top two teams, maybe also the Texans there in what they did during the offseason. Atlanta Falcons especially went from being a non-playoff team like the Eagles were last year, but to really making a ton of strides. And Kirk Cousins obviously at the top of that list. Kirk Cousins, maybe not a big game player, maybe not great in the playoffs, which are obviously big games, but has been phenomenal during the regular season for quite a while. All right, and they have a ton of pieces on that team, right, that have not really got to ball out, to shine as well as they could have based off of what they had going at quarterback. Right, they have, I think, 4 out of 5 offensive linemen that are first-round draft picks. Drake London, Pitts, Bijan Robinson. They have all of these solid, players all over the place on the offense. Defense was coming along last year as well. So, and they also added some pieces on defense too. So I think they're going to be a solid team, and they're playing in that NFC South, right? So I think they're going to win that division. I think they could maybe win that division easily. The Philadelphia Eagles, like I said, they also added a lot of pieces on that team as well. And a big thing too for them is bringing over new offensive and defensive coordinators onto that team. Their weakest position, defensive backs, defensive safeties, they shored that up. They went heavy on that in the offseason to address that concern there for the Eagles as well. I think it's really going to be about Jalen Hurts and, crazy to say, but Jason Kelce, about a center. But for a team like the Eagles, is there any team maybe more reliant upon their center out of all of football? And their center is gone that they had from years, and all pro, maybe generational, maybe one of the best centers of all time is gone. So where the Eagles can go, the sky's the limit with that team. They were just in the Super Bowl 2 years ago. They were out of the playoffs last year. I think they're in the playoffs this year. I think they're one of those top teams in the NFC. The Detroit Lions, they've been solid. They've been knocking on the door. Almost took it down the 49ers last year. I think they maybe even got a little bit better this year. The Detroit Lions did. It's one of those things there too. Like they talked about a little bit last year with them. I think it's even more this year. Like the expectations are already there. Can you live up to that? You're no longer the Lions of the feel good story, and can you go ahead and can do it and everyone feel good for you? Now you're expected to win. Right now, teams are actually coming for you. So, Lions, a real solid team all across the board. One of the best offensive lines in all football. That's the key for their quarterback play there as well. Detroit Lions' biggest thing, I think, for them is going to be where can their defense actually be at this year, right? For a few years now, they keep trying to say their defense is better. They keep not being really any better. Houston Texans, solid offensive, solid offseason for them, right? Where a team that was already in the playoffs last year, had a playoff win last year, with the rookie quarterback, were seeming like they were already on the rise. Then they add in some more pieces. I don't really know where you stop this team on offense. I think their offensive line maybe is their weakest spot on possibly the entire team. But their defense is solid as well. Maybe not a top tier defense, but a top 10, 15 defense on there, along with if they get good quarterback play like they had last year. Stephon Diggs all of a sudden comes over there. Joe Mixon is added to the roster as well. They're going to be real solid on offense. I think they should win that AFC Central, that AFC South division pretty easily there for them. And then the number 3, we have the Green Bay Packers. Green Bay Packers were just like the Detroit Lions, close to knocking down those San Francisco 49ers last year. I think you go from being the youngest team in the NFL to what are they, like the second youngest team, third youngest team this year. So they were that young, right? Last year they're the youngest team. They're still in like the top 3 youngest teams in the NFL. But now all those players have a year of playing together, a year of playing in the NFL with each other. And against top competition, against about being in the playoffs, that kind of thing. There, going 1 year forward, Jordan Love is no longer going to be, pretty much a rookie quarterback anymore. It'll be his second full year at quarterback. We saw he tore it up the last 10 weeks of the season, including the playoffs and everything like that there. So, he's going to have some ups and downs still. I think every young quarterback, rookie quarterback, he definitely did last year, will have that. But I think he's going to have way more ups than downs. I think he's going to be more consistent this year. And they got rid of their defensive coordinator and brought in Jeff Hackett from Boston College. I think they're going to be way more aggressive on defense. I think their defense has a ton of pieces on there. They brought over Xavier McKinney. They brought over basically the best safety in the NFL onto their team, and they were like that was their weakest spot, and they brought over the best player in the NFL to shore up that spot. That's pretty good, right? So I think the defense is going to be a whole lot better. I think their offense is going to be really good. I think they're Josh Jacobs is there now, running back instead of Aaron Jones. I would have loved to see Aaron Jones stay with the team and see that the dual head threat there with those two. Best of luck to Aaron Jones, but unfortunately, injuries every year has kind of been his story. And I think the Packers said, okay, we're going to go with this guy here that maybe he's a little bit younger, doesn't have the injury history that you do, Aaron Jones. But I think the offense is going to be very good. Offensive line will be something to really watch for the Packers. I don't think they're quite as a veteran group on the offensive line, quite as established, really great players on the offensive line as they have been in years past. But really, it's going to be about that defense. Is this defense a top 20 team? Is it or is it a top 10 team? I don't think it's going to be a top 5 team or anything like that there, but if this defense is 25th in the NFL at the end of the season, this team's going to be middle of the pack, a wild card team maybe again. If this defense is, 15th or something like that in the NFL, then all of a sudden they're vying for the division, maybe winning the division over the Detroit Lions. And if they're a top 10 defense, if they're a 7-8 defense or something like that, then they're right up there with the San Francisco 49ers, for the best team in the NFC. Okay. And then speaking of those San Francisco 49ers, there they are at the number 2 spot. What can I say? I mean, could I put them at number 1? I could, except for the Kansas City Chiefs are literally the Super Bowl champions, right? And they beat the 49ers twice now in the Super Bowl. San Francisco 49ers are just that good of a team. I've thought it for years. I mean, I've thought besides the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, that is the best roster I've ever seen put together. I mean, look just across the board where they have an all-pro tackle, Pro Bowl, multiple Pro Bowl, like wide receivers, all pro MVPs, running backs, tight ends, defensive line, linebackers, corners, safeties, just everywhere. And then you throw in Brock Purdy as the anomaly there, right? How good can Brock Purdy be? I think he's proven to be pretty solid as a quarterback. I think one of the biggest stats that I saw last year, when I was really trying to diagnose what was I seeing with Brock Purdy, was that he was like, I think he was like far and above the best quarterback in the NFL throwing to receivers that were open. So in the NFL, they're basically saying open 5 yards or more. And he was one of the worst in throwing to wide receivers that are not open, right? Less than 5 yards in the NFL. Now, Kyle Shanahan, I believe, is one of the best coaches in the NFL, and he diagnoses plays, draws up plays to the point that Brock Purdy gets to throw to a lot of open receivers, which is why those numbers are so skewed for him. He gets to throw to way more open receivers than he does receivers that are not open, right? But the point being there is, if any quarterback was on that team, getting to throw to way more open receivers, more than 5 yards open receivers, do they also have great numbers, maybe like Brock Purdy does, right? And then you get to some of the tougher teams, you get to the playoffs and that kind of thing, and maybe those windows are closed down a little bit. And maybe that's the difference between why they're not blowing out teams in the playoffs and why they have not been able to get over that hump winning the Super Bowl. And that's with Brock Purdy or Garoppolo, right? So San Francisco 49ers, again, they're going to be solid. They're going to be one of the best teams in the NFL. They're going to be there in the playoffs for sure. I think they're going to win that NFC West for sure. Can they take out the likes of the Packers, Lions, Eagles, Falcons or Bears, so some of those teams, if they're there in the playoffs and if they make it all the way, the Chiefs still look solid. I mean, I think it's, Chiefs, Texans, I don't really have a whole lot of faith in the Ravens getting there. Jets, if their defense is there. Bills, obviously, they keep pushing them every year as well. But the Chiefs to be there in the Super Bowl against those 49ers, it seems like, again, the Chiefs just seem like a loaded team, and that is why they are number one there. They're really good on defense, again this year, which is not what could be said just 3-4 years ago, but all of a sudden they really turned around and have a very good defense on that team. They went out and got some receivers to go for Mahomes this year. Pacheco at running back, I think he's awesome. Kelsey's getting up there, but actually it looked like he actually, to me, looked like he thinned down, like he got in even better shape than he was in last year, for this NFL season. So we'll have to see how that translates onto the field throughout the entire season. But, Mahomes, Kelsey, a new receiver squad that looks like they have a ton of speed to them and a really solid defense, good offensive line, and a team that knows what they're doing and is going for the three-peat, right? Maybe the first time ever in NFL history that Super Bowl champions will be won by the same team for 3 years in a row. Got to put the Kansas City Chiefs there at number one. And we'll see here how this season plays out. It's going to be fun to watch the whole season. I hope you guys got to enjoy the list here. Let me know if you have any comments on any of the spots there that I put. I'm going to try to keep up with this every week and move teams up or down here along the list as we go along throughout the year. Injuries, how they're playing, all those kind of things there will play out week to week. And it'll be fun to see where these lists have changed, week to week, by the mid-season, by the end of the season. And hopefully you guys keep coming back and watching it. If you're liking it, please leave a like, comment, subscribe, tell your friends, hit the notification bell. And hope to see you guys next time. I'm Mr. SoundOff. Thank you, everyone.